God works in mysterious ways. So I remember that before I got saved, before I was a Christian, I was a little heathen, and I was about 21 years old. And I was staying at a friend's house. I was helping her, and I decided to take a nap. So I went in her son's bedroom, and I went to take a nap. I laid down, and when I laid down, I looked up at the ceiling, and a dark spirit, a shadow, came out of the ceiling and fell down into me. And I was frozen. I couldn't move. And I was screaming and yelling and everything. And then my friend came to check up on me, and she leaned against the wall and said, Carmen. She said my name about 3 times, and inside I'm yelling, I'm screaming, I'm saying, come over and touch me. But she wasn't hearing that. So she came over and touched me to shake me, and I jumped up. I was free, and I ran out into the living room, and she chased me. She says, what happened? I told her what happened. I said, hey, there was a spirit that came down, a dark spirit, like a ghost, and came into me. And until you touched me, I didn't get set free, but I was screaming and yelling. She goes, no, you weren't screaming and yelling. You were just laying there. You weren't blinking, nothing. I go, are you sure? She goes, yes, I'm sure. I said, because I heard me screaming, and I felt she goes, no, you were not screaming. I said, let's do it again. She goes, you're going to do that again? I go, yes. I can be courageous at times. And this was one of those times. I'm a very curious person. So I'm going to go back, lay down in the bed. And I told her, just count to 60 and then touch me. And she said, okay. But while you're counting, I said, watch me to see if my eyes blink or anything else. She goes, okay. So I lay down. As soon as I lay down, that spirit came through the ceiling and came and got into me. And again, I was frozen, and I could hear her 59. I was so upset that it was taking her so long. And finally she touched me, and I ran out of the room again because the feeling I had was escape. And so I went and sat down, and she says, well, what happened? I said, okay, did you see me blink? She goes, no, you didn't blink. I said, did you see me talking, turning? She goes, no. I said, I was doing all that. I was turning and looking at you. She goes, no, you weren't. So that's because this happened to me and God is so amazing that He uses everything for a good purpose. Later on, after I got saved, one day, a young girl that was about 13, 14 years old died. And she was a patient at an orthodontic office where I used to work at, and she died. And I felt like the Lord wanted me, but she wasn't dead yet. She was in the hospital, and my boss told me that she was in a coma, and they were wondering why she wouldn't die yet. They took her off the machine, and so she had taken a bunch of pills and a bunch of medicines. So then at lunchtime, I felt like God was telling me to go to the hospital. It was real strong. So I went there. And as I'm going into the hospital, I said, well, Lord, you're going to have to do a miracle here, because she's white. I'm not white. She's blonde and blue eyes. I don't look anything like her. They're going to know I'm not her family, and they're going to wonder why I want to go. It's not even visiting hours, And so I went by the waiting room, and all her family was there, and I passed that, and I went to ER. I went past the double doors, and I said, I came to see Sherry, whatever her name was. And they said, are you related? And I said, no. And she said, well, and it's not even visiting hours. I said, I just need to pray for her. I just need 5 minutes to pray for her. And the girl looked this way. She looked that way, the nurse, in ICU. That's where she was. And she said, 5 minutes. So I went in there, and I remembered what happened to me in the earlier incident. I knew that she could hear me and she could see me, even though her body, she was shut down. Her eyes were sealed, and she was laying there. She was bloated. But I knew that she was in there, her spirit. The spirit is what looks around and turns. So I did the sinner's prayer. I said to her, Sherry, you remember me, and I'm going to lead you to the sinner's prayer. The reason you probably haven't passed yet is because God wants you to accept Him. So I'm going to say the sinner's prayer, and you just repeat after me and mean it. But I'm not going to hear you, and it doesn't matter because God hears you. And I went through the whole sinner's prayer, and then I paused each time after each question, and then I left her and I said, hey, I'll see you in heaven. God bless you. You're free to go. And so then I left. And the next day, she died. So I knew that God had wanted me to go there because I knew that her spirit was in her body. So after that, and since then, I have prayed for 2 other people that were in a semi-coma, and one of them was on her deathbed. And as far as I'm concerned, they all went to the Lord. I have that kind of faith, and you need to have that kind of faith too, because if you're hearing this, maybe one day some loved one of yours is going to be in a coma, and everybody will think, well, for all intents and purposes, he or she is dead. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. And by the way, my grandson was in a semi-coma when he was in the hospital, and he went to heaven, and he saw and he explained everything that happened. So I'm telling you, just because people are in a coma doesn't mean they can't see you, they can't hear you. And if you ever have a loved one in that condition, pray for them and talk to them. Don't let people talk negative, positive, because they can hear you. God bless you. I don't know who this is for. And if it's not for you today, remember, it might be for you tomorrow. God bless you.